What's up guys, Pilot here, and in this video I'm going to show you my Infinity build that I put together for Zero. Now this build is all based around the Infinity pistol, which some people will kind of turn their nose up at, but I personally love it. It's fantastic for mobbing, tubby hunting, in general kind of fun at OP8, which is, you know, you really do need a good build for OP8, and I find that this one's a little bit different than the normal ones that you kind of get, so I'm kind of happy with it. I really like it. But the main things about this is that as a total, this build will give you 143.5% buffed gun damage and an additional 10% per rising shot stat, as well as giving you buffed critical damage of an extra 154%. So it's pretty good. And so this is the skill list. So you're going to want a headshot up to 5 to give you an extra critical 20%. The killer kill skill as well. Again, you're seeing all these numbers here. You get an extra 50% if you have that up to 5. Gun damage here, 1 shot, 1 kill gives you an extra 60. Always get bore and get velocity. The class mod I've got on gives me an extra 5 in velocity, so you know, you can see the numbers, the bullet speed and everything gets pretty crazy. Precision, I've only got 4 out of 5 in precision because I did have 5, but I took 1 out to put it into the kunai instead, which was a ridiculously good choice. But you're not losing that much accuracy with the Infinity pistol anyway. It still is a really good gun in terms of, you know, accuracy, even though it does fire in a funny pattern. You're going to want fast hands and ambush for like that little first kill you're going to get on them. Death mark obviously is pretty handy if you get into a sticky situation, but I don't find myself meleeing a lot at all, so we stick away from that. Rising shot and innervate and 2 fang is important. Again, I've got a class mod that gives me an extra 6 in a 2 fang, which is really where the meat comes from of getting those shots off. And it's the chaotic evil class mod that you get, which I'll show you in a minute. But apart from that, that's pretty much where you're getting all the meat from. Is coming from velocity and 2 fang, which you'll get from that class mod. There are other class mods that do it, but I would recommend the chaotic evil rogue class mod for that. And we added in the Death Blossom, and that's when we took a point out of accuracy for the Death Blossom to get the kunai and the Death Mark, etc. And that really does make the difference. So in the Bloodshed one, we don't have much. We have the Iron Hand, but mainly for the max health. We don't usually go for the melee damage. This build's really all about safety and being safe while being pretty OP. So I wanted a lot of shield and a lot of health, so the melee is not really important. But regenerating your shield again is important as well, so is your cooldown rate. And again, the follow through for the gun damage and the movement speed, and not necessarily the melee, because we're not going to be doing too much meleeing in this. It's all about the gun. So here are the weapons. Again, as I said, this is based completely around the Infinity pistol. The main two you'll find that you're using are the fire one and the corrosive one. They seem to be the only two I'm really using when I'm doing my tubby hunts, my tubby runs, but I do have a discharge in there, a shock one, just in case somebody's got a little bit of a higher shield that needs to be, you know, flashed off in a couple of seconds. And I've got a standard Infinity in there, but I actually usually don't use the standard Infinity. But if you need to get one, you can go to Doc Mercy, you can find him here, or you can also find 2 of them in the peak at, I can't remember the OP level exactly, but he does exist in the peak, and if you do peak runs, you probably get a chance to get him there. But like I said, I usually swap out the standard for the grog nozzle, just for that a little bit extra bit of healing. I really wish there was a slag Infinity pistol, but sadly there isn't. Not legitimately anyway. So the grog nozzle usually takes the place of the standard Infinity as a trade-off for the higher damage. Shield wise, I like to be safe, as I said, so I took a high capacity one, which was the antagonist. But mainly because the antagonist will launch slag homing balls at attackers, because slag is super important in OP8, as I'm sure you guys know. But apart from that, I feel pretty safe wearing this. You know, it's got the bullet deflection, which is actually a really good thing to have on, especially if you're up against if you're running through the beginning part of the wildlife preserve and you're farming loot midgets or tubby hunting. But it comes in really handy, and it just keeps me safe. A lot of people kind of recommend the bee, and I've got a couple of bees, but I wanted to make something with a little bit of difference, which was the antagonist, but also because the antagonist sends enemy bullets back at them, you can also do some pretty fun things with it, such as boring the bunker by letting him shoot himself when it deflects off you. And as you can see here, I barely get to turn around, and he's already bored himself by firing his bullets at me, and they're getting fired straight back at him. So as long as you're at the right position, you can do that, and that's a fun little trick shot. Grenade-wise, I've got the magic missile, of course, for the extra slag damage. I do have an OP8 one on here because I like the extra bit of damage, but I find that the OP8 one can be pretty dangerous if you're being rushed by a rabid skag or, you know, a rabid stalker or anything like that. So, might be worthwhile putting on a level 72 one. I've got one somewhere, but I usually trade off between the two, but I found that I usually stay from a pretty safe distance, or I will go into deception to get away from rabid enemies. But the slag is important there. Relic-wise, the Sheriff's Badge obviously for the pistol damage and the pistol fire rate, and the extra little bit of fight for your lifetime, sorry, because you still will go down, but you know, not that often if you're careful. Class mod, this is the meat of the build right here, I would say, for the extra 2-fang and the extra velocity scale, as well as the critical damage increase and the fire rate. It's a really, really good mod for this. It's pretty much the only one I'll use. I do, when I was putting this build together, I did switch out between a legendary sniper and a legendary killer mod, I believe. But I found myself going back to the chaotic evil rogue class mod quite a lot because it just fit better. And the killer and the sniper were using skills that I didn't have anything spec'd into, so they were wasted attributes really. As well as the legendary sniper mod taking down my shield and not giving much of a, you know, not giving too much of a helping hand in terms of what I was looking for. So the chaotic evil rogue class mod really did make the most of it. So I stick with that mainly, but I did experiment with it, and there wasn't a huge difference, to be honest, between the legendary sniper and the chaotic rogue class mod, apart from obviously the 2-fang. So that was that, but I've also got some bees in here. I tend not to use the bee much at all, if ever, because I like the antagonist so much, but if I'm doing things like fighting Saturn, I've been trying to farm Saturn skins for ages, and I would flick out the antagonist with the bee shield just for a little bit of speed in the farm. But apart from that, that's the build. I've got a couple of bones in there, but I tend to just stick with the Sheriff's Badge. That is the one I need. But I suppose enough of me talking about it. Let's go and check it out in action. So yeah, here we go.